So let's cut through all the noise surrounding India's LPG crisis. You've got official reports saying everything is fine, but on the ground, it's a totally different story. We're talking endless queues, widespread panic, and real personal struggle. We're going to get to the bottom of what's really going on. All right, to really understand this, let's start with the human cost. The source material kicks off with a story of Bhushan Kumar Mittal. He was 66 years old, and he spent hours, just hours, standing in the hot sun waiting for one LPG cylinder. He had a cardiac arrest and died, right there in that line. This isn't just some minor inconvenience. For people like him, it's literally life and death. And this is where things get really confusing. While people are facing this kind of desperation, the government's official line is no shortage. They're saying there's plenty of LPG to go around. So what is the truth here? That's exactly what we're going to unpack. First, let's really zoom in on that on-the-ground reality. Because what the source material shows is that Mr. Mittal's tragic death, well, it wasn't a one-off thing. This has blown up into a nationwide crisis, and you can see the proof of it everywhere. Yeah, this goes way beyond just long lines. The ripple effects are shaking the whole economy. You've got online booking systems just crashing, which forces even more people into these massive physical queues. Restaurants are having to shut their doors, which then tanks food delivery orders. And, tensions are running so high that it's boiling over into protests. People are looting supply trucks. And now, get this, gas deliveries actually need police escorts in some states. It's a total systemic breakdown. And you know what happens when there's this much desperation, right? A black market explodes. And just look at these numbers. A domestic cylinder that's supposed to cost about 900 rupees, it's selling for up to 3,000 on the black market. And for businesses, it's even worse. Commercial cylinders are going for as much as 6,000 rupees. That is 6 times the official price. People are just being forced to pay whatever it takes to cook a meal for their families. So now you've got these two completely different stories playing out. On the one side, you have this chaotic, desperate reality that millions of people are living through. And on the other, you have the official narrative coming straight from the top. And this is that official story, a statement made in Parliament by the Petroleum Minister himself. The government's position is clear. The supply is totally secure. And all these problems we're seeing? Well, that's just because citizens are panic buying and hoarding cylinders. The blame is put squarely on the public. But the source immediately starts poking holes in that story. Think about it. If the only problem is a little panic buying and there isn't a real supply issue, then why in the world did the government start rolling out all these drastic emergency-level measures? It just doesn't add up. And this slide, wow, it just lays the contradiction out perfectly. The official line is no shortage, but then they raise prices. They say supply is protected, but then issue an order to squeeze out every last drop of production. They tell everyone don't panic, but at the same time, they're literally rationing supply to businesses. And the biggest one, if all is well, why force families to wait 25 or even 45 days between getting new cylinders? These don't seem like the actions of a government that's just handling a bit of public panic. They look like the actions of a government that's dealing with a major supply crisis. So if it is a real shortage, then what's the cause? Well, the source traces the entire problem back to one single geopolitical event, and India's really dangerous reliance on one very, very vulnerable supply route. First, you have to understand the context here. India uses a mind-boggling amount of LPG every year, 3.1 crore metric tons. And as you can see, a full 60% of that is imported from other countries. We are massively dependent on the rest of the world for our cooking gas. And here it is, the choke point. The source reveals that an absolutely staggering 90% of all our imported gas comes through one single narrow waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. So the moment a war involving Iran led to that strait being closed, bam, more than half of India's entire LPG supply was cut off. Just like that. Now, that geopolitical event might have been the trigger, but the source argues that the real problem is a crisis of preparation. The potential for conflict in that region wasn't exactly a state secret. So it raises a really serious question. Why was there no backup plan? And this next figure, this might be the most alarming piece of this entire story. India has no strategic LPG reserve. None. Zero. The total amount of gas in the entire supply system, from the ships to your local agency, adds up to less than 48 hours of what the country uses. For a nation of 1.4 billion people, our entire safety net is less than 2 days. It's just incredible. So the main critique here, according to the source, is that this was basically a disaster waiting to happen. For years, the government has been pushing schemes like Ujwala, which is great, but it dramatically increased demand for LPG. Yet at the same time, it apparently failed to find other countries to buy from or to build up any kind of emergency reserves. It left 33 crore households totally dependent on a single, extremely volatile shipping lane. Okay, so where does all of this leave the average person? The source shifts gears here to look at what might happen next and offers a few practical things people can actually do. So what's the way out of this mess? Well, unfortunately, every path to a quick fix is really complicated. Emergency shipments are coming in, but the source points out that one of these ships often carries just a single day's worth of supply for the entire country. The most realistic guess, this shortage is probably going to continue for at least another 4 to 8 weeks. Now, while the big systemic problem is obviously out of our hands, the source does give some practical advice for households. It says an induction stove is a really good backup, assuming your electricity is reliable. If you can get it, registering for piped gas can make you totally independent of this whole messy supply chain. And really importantly, it urges people to report black market sellers and to try and avoid hoarding, because that just makes the pressure worse for everyone. And that really brings us full circle, back to the human cost. The source ends on this incredibly tragic point. After so many years of progress, of getting households to stop using dangerous, polluting wood-burning stoves, or chulas, this crisis is forcing millions of people, especially in rural areas, to go right back to them. The women who were finally freed from all that smoke are now being forced to breathe it in again. It's just a powerful reminder that this isn't a story about geopolitics or supply chains. It's about a crisis that's wiping out years of progress and hitting the most vulnerable people the hardest.